All right, everybody, welcome back to the Overwatch Collective Podcast, Season 10, Episode 10. Looking forward to this one. Lacey and I we had a good phone conversation, and then we were like, all right, let's plan this out for February. So, number one, Lacey, thank you for coming on. I appreciate you. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, Greg. It's good to see you on screen and get to put this into fruition. Just getting to talk to you over the months and get this set up is great.
Yeah, looking forward to it. So the way that we got connected, our board of directors members, Cheryl and Donna, went to a conference in Sacramento, and you spoke at that, right?
I did, yes. It was a first responders mental health and wellness conference. God bless them. They're doing this all the time, volunteering to do this. None of them get paid, so it's just quite amazing. But they asked me to be the MC and also one of the keynote speakers, and it was wonderful. And that's where I met your gals.
Awesome, sweet. So I reached out to everybody from that conference to try to do a podcast or get a connection. So glad that we can finally do that. First, I'm going to mention our podcast sponsor. So Brain Performance Technologies, a specialty mental health clinic that treats patients with transcranial magnetic stimulation. It delivers electrical pulses to specific areas on the scalp to alter brainwave activity and treat various conditions, including depression, TBI, PTSD, anxiety, OCD. It's drug-free, non-invasive, and improves brainwave function. You get better sleep, better mood, and bigger gains in improved mental health. Brain Performance Technologies offers different TMS protocols, including RTMS, MERT, SAINT, and it's an authorized TRICARE provider for our military community. And then they just started accepting insurance. You can learn more at 1bpt.com or listen to Season 9, Episode 20 with yours truly. It was a good podcast. So it's enough of the podcast sponsorship. We appreciate you. Thank you. So Lacey, been in law enforcement for a while, juvenile hall, corrections, working patrol. Now you're a sergeant at a big agency in Northern California. I'll just leave it at that. But obviously, big proponent of mental health and taking care of our community. So appreciate you coming on once again, and just give us a little bit more of a introduction of yourself.
Yeah, thanks, Greg. First of all, that sponsorship sounds amazing. I'm going to look into that. They sounds like they're targeting all the right areas for us. Never heard of it, so that's cool. Yeah, I've been born and raised in Northern California, and like most of us, knew from an early age that law enforcement or first responder or something of that nature, helping people, was going to be my path. And so, I made it happen, and been law enforcement for about 20 years in different forms and facets, including, probation department, and then sworn officer for a little over 15, almost 16 years now. Time flies.
Yeah, time definitely does fly. I know, like, usually when people get towards the end of their career, they're like, it'll go by in a blink of an eye and everything. And I'm at 11 years now and like 12 years in the military. I'm like, okay, it's let's expedite this process a little bit.
Yes, sir. It slows down. I don't
But
know about that
obviously
speed.
throughout, yeah, yeah. So obviously I want to pick your brain on mental health in the first responder community. I know, like, I've lost two close friends to suicide now. We just lost Shane Hart, one of the sergeants at Daly City Police Department, who was also a combat vet, end of January. So I kind of just want to get your opinion on all this mental health stuff, but I want to start with the talking about like the stigma and the resources that we have in our community. What's your opinion on things that we could be doing better and or are doing well?
That's a good question. I think we all kind of have the same sentiment. Like, that's why us first responders stick together. And the idea of coming forward and saying, I'm struggling, my brain's not right, or I can't sleep because I'm having nightmares, I can't eat, I'm shaking, my marriage is falling apart. There's just such, you're right, the word stigma, cliche as it is, it's absolutely accurate. We don't have the resources. We have the resources technically. Of course, most, if not all, departments now are focused on, here's a department therapist, here's the EAP program, we want to help you. But the stigma is we come forward with it and it's like, oh, they put us all under one umbrella, one basket. in that most of us aren't on the brink of necessarily committing suicide. We're just struggling a little bit. We can't sleep. We can't eat. Again, we're having struggles at home. I need a mental reset. I need a little break. I need to talk to somebody, maybe get some medication finally, because all these years I've been saying, I don't want meds. I'm better than that. Meds are for weak people. But, now 5, 10, 15, 20 years into the business, it's like, well, maybe I need a little help because I can't sleep and I'm having trouble. But you go forward. As soon as you come forward and say, I just need a little help, it's, everything stops and the big red handle is pulled and you're a basket case and we're taking away your peace officer powers. And all of those things cause us to stop coming forward. And I think that's a major issue, a major problem, putting us all under one umbrella. Whereas, yeah, maybe some guys are at a place where they need that major red handle pulled in, and we got you. We're going to take care of that. And of course, it's going to suck for you, but not all of us are there. Most of us are, we want to come forward before we end our life or before we become alcoholics or before our spouses leave. But coming forward, therein lies, yeah, everything immediately stops for you. And the one thing that we feel like we're really good at, which is going to work, it's the one place in our life, for me, where I've always felt like I'm successful here. I put that uniform on, I get to go to this place of business, and that's where I put on my game face, and that's where I'm good. That's the first thing they take from you. And so we don't want to come and talk about it. And that's, for me, I think the stigma really that needs to be focused on.
Yeah, I could not agree more with you. I think two things that come to mind there. I think that's why we see a lot in our community, first responders not proactively reaching out to therapists to work on themselves. It's usually like 10, 15 years, or there was a critical incident, and then it's like, okay, now you need to go to therapy. And they think like, I'm going to go to therapy, work on this incident, and then I'll be good. When it's like, we have 5, 10 years of shit to unpack and work on before we even get to this, And then number two, I think that's one of the reasons why we see suicides and we see people getting arrested for DUI, right? All these problems, it's because they don't feel like they can go to the agency and get the help. They don't trust it. So then you try to compartmentalize it as much as possible. But at the end of the day, like, you can only hold on to it for so long.
And that, you hit it, Greg. I mean, you can only hold on to it for so long. And after being in the business for so long, and also personally having my struggles with mental health and those things, you and I can speak from experience. Most of the guys can. We've been around for a while, and I've said to a younger family member in law enforcement who was recently in a shooting, I explained to him that it's not the shooting. You're still new in this job. It's not 5 shootings or 5 bad calls. It's a collective. And if you were given, let's say, a Porsche or a Maserati, every 3 months you're taking that puppy in for some maintenance, even if it doesn't really need it, but you're going to take care of it. Why are we not doing that for our mental health? Why are we taking better care of our trucks and our cars than our brains, especially in this line of work? It's a collective of all these calls over 10, 15, 20 years, and all of a sudden it's going to come out like a volcano. And so therapy is nothing to be ashamed of in our line of work. And in fact, it needs to be pushed and talked about, as you're not weak for going in there. You're actually stronger than you think.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think that's one of those things that I know some departments are starting to do annual check-ins, or my brother's a firefighter in Southern California, and they actually do biannual check-ins,
But
which I think is absolutely fantastic to normalize, like, to know that everybody's going to talk to a therapist, number one. But number two, like, it gets you more comfortable talking to someone and being like, oh wow, this isn't anything crazy. Like, that was actually beneficial. Maybe instead of just this twice a year, like, I can do a few times a year, or I can do quarterly, and it just normalizes that, because I think people don't really know what therapy looks like for them or what it would be like, and they're just like, no, I'm not going to deal with it. Like, I don't want to go through that. Like, they already have enough on their plate until things are really bad. So I'm curious your thoughts on annual or biannual check-ins.
I think there's nothing wrong with it. Again, we're stubborn. those of us who work in first responder, law enforcement, military work, we're stubborn mules. And we're not going to do something a lot until we're forced. And we'll grump all the way there, and we'll complain and moan about it. But I think forcing it, there's nothing wrong with that. Just give us a check-in. Let us get in there and realize, hey, just because I sit in this office doesn't make me weak. This is actually better than I thought. And I think something to touch on for us too in this line of work now, in today's world, we have EMDR. And I don't know if anybody knows what that is, but it's interesting how EMDR is working. And I've done it quite a bit now. And it feels silly. You feel silly doing it, but it does. It rewires the brain of some of this stuff. And my nightmares have really dissipated with doing some EMDR work. And it doesn't take 100 sessions. It's like 5, 6, 7, 10 if you need it. And all of a sudden you're like, oh, wow, I can sleep a lot better. So most definitely those biannual check-ins, and also pushing stuff like EMDR, new, more modern ideas, really helpful.
Yeah, I appreciate you bringing that up, that you've done EMDR, and I think kind of transitioning into yourself being a supervisor, right? Looking out for fellow deputies, correctional officers, et cetera. What are some things that you take into account regarding their mental health as a supervisor?
If you stepped into a supervisor role in this line of work, you realize that everybody's a kid now. I'm getting to that age where I'm all the kids, and they're my deputies, my babies, and I'm looking out for them like my kids. And something that I just try to push is that there's no shame. Start early with the mental health. Don't get into drinking, just all the little things that we need. Stay in the gym. Keep friends that aren't in law enforcement. Keep your hobbies before you got into this career. I really try to push all that. Have a side hustle, something you really enjoy doing that might make you some side cash that you like to do on your days off. I think part of the problem is we get into this line of work and it becomes our identity. It becomes who we are, not a job that we do. And of course, it's hard not to. I mean, we have this brotherhood, right, where we're seeing the worst things in the world. And of course, you're going to get close to your partners. And I'm not saying get away from that, but also it's an and, not a but. And pay attention to yourself. And that's what I try to push with some of my younger kids coming up in this line of work.
Got it. Yeah, I think that's great. And like you being so aware of mental health and everything, and obviously you have a passion for it, where you're probably more aware of some of the signs of your deputies as well. So like in the event if he or she was struggling, or you could see something, it's like, hey, maybe you should go chill at the station for 30 minutes, log yourself out of service, et cetera, and just go recover. Which I think that's how every supervisor should be. They should have the extra training to kind of notice some of the signs and symptoms, and it really helps when you know your people too. I'm curious your thoughts, and throughout this long career of yours, what is it like being a female in a male-dominated industry? And then how does that affect female police officers, firefighters, dispatchers reaching out for mental health resources?
It's a good question, Greg, because we're different. Men and women are different. We're full of estrogen, you're full of testosterone. So our emotions are going to just chemically react different per whatever situation. And it's important to also note, all of us in this line of work, in these fields, we also have childhood issues or trauma or things that we're bringing into the career with us. And so by nature of being a woman, it's interesting when I explain to young women who are thinking about law enforcement, there's a way to look at it. As a young man coming into law enforcement, it's almost like you're part of the clique, the bro code, you're part of the group until you prove that you're not. Maybe you make a mistake or you screw up or something, and then everybody looks at you funny. And as a woman, you're not part of that crew until you prove that you are. And so, a lot of young women kind of overcompensate to try to make it and to try to fit in. And I always say, just if you're meant for this job, just be yourself, follow what your training is and do what you're supposed to do. Don't try to stand out too much. Don't try to stand out too little, And, but there's a place for both of us, men and women, in this line of work. And I always say sometimes a woman's voice on scene really calms things down. And there's a place for us in this line of work too. And it's about just working together as a team. We all bring something to the table.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And then, eh, do you think that there's any more of a stigma for female police officers than male officers reaching out for help or saying, I that call really affected me or I need some time off?
No, I haven't seen that. My department's pretty good about that. And I really haven't had too much in my department of not feeling like I fit in just because I'm a female. Um, our guys have been really good to us. And I think it's sometimes harder for you guys when you want to ask for help because it's kind of like, no, suck it up, dude. We're kind of expected to cry. That's just part of our makeup. And so I don't think there's much different stigma for you as there would be for me. I think it's all pretty much the same. We're supposed to pull our bootstraps up and go to the next call and do our job. It doesn't matter who you are, but we wear the same uniform. So no, I can say my department's been pretty good about that.
Good. Yeah, I'm glad to hear that. And I know I always joke on these and I say it's like the being a male police officer number one, but then you get on the SWAT team and you wear all the tactical shit and you got all the Molly everywhere and 18,000 pouches on your vest and like that makes you even more like you look better, right? You're supposed to be the big bad tough SWAT dude, and it's like that adds an extra layer of like, oh, I got to be Superman. I can't be the SWAT dude that's reaching out for help. So do you feel like as you promote or you get into specialty assignments, that makes it harder for people to reach out as well?
I don't know. I don't think so. I think, it's something that I preach in my speaking business because I do a lot of speaking and leadership development stuff now is, the thing in our way is ourself. And so, I mean, we're the main thing in our own dang way in this world. And we're convincing ourselves in or out of so much without any outside influence. And it's so easy to do that now with social media, with everything. I mean, I'm sure you're like me, my brain never settles down. It's hard to turn off. And so, no, I think our SWAT guys, air ops, canine, all the way down to, our detectives working in child sex assaults and how traumatizing that can be. It's really going to be incumbent on us to be our own advocate and speak up whether or not we have the coolest job in the department or the least coolest job in the department. It's, the dispatchers need help too. It's nobody should be ashamed of coming forward.
Gotcha. Yeah. No, I like that, and I couldn't agree more. I think nobody should be ashamed for coming forward. Has your agency or anywhere in the area lost any members to suicide, police officers, firefighters, anything like that recently?
Almost definitely. I live in a really big area and work for a large department. And yes, we've had our recent share and long term unfortunate events of suicide for various reasons. And it's typically the person you're like, well, I didn't know they were fine. Look at Robin Williams. Even it's always the guy that seems okay. Um, but yeah, we've dealt with that, and just following statistics on my own. I did my master's program, and one of my big projects was on officer suicide. We're dying more by our own hand oftentimes than we are in the line of duty, and so it's not nobody's away from it. You can work for the smallest department of 2 people or 2,000. It doesn't really matter. What you see is not normal. And I've done recent podcasts, and people know this statistic, but it's good to be reminded of it in our line of work that in a 20-year career, you're going to see upwards of 700 critical incidents, whereas the average person in their life is going to see two or three. And a regular day for us is coming home and saying, yeah, it was a good day. We may have had a homicide or a car accident or whatever. That's a normal day for us now. So that can't sit right.
Yeah, and I think that's more reason for us to promote getting help, working on yourself early and often in the career, right? Where and it starts in the police academies for me and like the fire academy, all that stuff, where having the awareness and having people come in and talk about, hey, this is what happened to me. I thought I was fine. Then 10, 15, 20 years in the job, it hit me like a sack of potatoes. I finally went to therapy after my first divorce or second divorce, our community. And then um, a lot of the times I feel like people really benefit from listening to other people in that career share their story, unfortunately, and be like, hey, this did not work for me. Don't be like Greg. Don't be like Lacey. Work on yourself. This is what I want you guys to do, and you'll have a good career. I'm curious your thoughts on that.
I 100% agree. It's start early, do it often. And again, it's like maintenance. If we're maintaining our homes, we're maintaining our vehicles, we also need to maintain our physical bodies, our mental health. And, a lot of cops are good about going to the gym, working out. And firefighters too. We have to stay physically healthy. But that same thing applies to our minds, and our families depend on us doing that. Our spouse, a lot of people have kids, our parents. I mean, if we're not here and we're not healthy, we're not helping anybody. And our whole point in this life, most of us, is to help. That's what we want to do, is we want to help. But we're not helping ourselves first and foremost. And I think that's really where the problem lies, is we're fine. Our whole shift is spent, our whole career is spent. Everybody else comes first. And that's what we signed up for. That's what we're here for. But then the day stops. Now what? Well, now we need to take care of us.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. It's like the Superman, like the hero kind of thing with our community. I feel like when it's like, I'm not supposed to be the one asking for help. I'm supposed to be the one providing help. Unfortunately, until sometimes it's too late, and then you're forced to get help. And I think something that we strive to do at the Overwatch Collective is provide like a platform where you can proactively look for a therapist in your state, vet him or her, listen to a podcast with him or her, and in the event that you need to go to therapy and you're like, all right, it's finally time, then it's quick and easy, right? Like the last thing that I want anybody to do in our community is to be sitting at home drinking and be like, okay, now I need to go to therapy. And then you go to Google and you're like, therapist near me. And then you're having to deal with insurance, find a therapist. And then you have to find out if he or she's even culturally competent and understands what we go through. So that's our mission, and doing that across the country.
That's perfect, because you're right. That moment when you're sitting, you've had one four too many, and finally, like, I think I need help. Everything's falling apart. Yeah, it's like, now what? And we're not just going to go sit with any therapist. No shade on therapists at all, period. But, like, unless it's, and a lot of our therapists are EMDR trained now as well, but unless there's a specialty that a non law enforcement, first responder, acclimated therapist, we need to have it on our phone, just like we do our bank, just like we do our insurance company. You don't have to call them every day. You don't have to call them every year. But like you say, having it available by text, hey, I need to get in. Why not? Why not just do that research and have it available to you, or your brother or your sister on the street in uniform next to you? They might need it. So if you're not doing it for you, do it for them.
Yeah, yeah, and I definitely I do think it's getting better. I've been seeing more proactivity with it. I don't know if
Productivity.
that's the right word. But I mean, we're so used to it. There you go. Yeah. We're so used to seeing like, oh, the new staccato's coming out. I'm going to prepare for that and everything. But it's time to start transitioning into the need to find a therapist and work proactively on that, which I think is getting better. Before I transition into one more thing that I want to get into, what's one piece of advice that you would give a first responder in regards to mental health?
There's 1,000 pieces of advice we could give to all of our people, but my number one thing is to always remind people that there's no shame in asking for some help. And I really think that's the main place that we get ourselves hemmed up on. If I ask for help, people are going to think I'm weak. And quite the contrary. If we ask for help, we need to continue to let our people know, the people around us in our careers, that it's not weak to ask for help. It's not weak to ask for help. What's weak is to sit around and drink yourself to death or put a gun in your mouth. It's not weak to say, hey, I think I just need some help. And again, it doesn't also mean that you're a basket case. It just means that you might just need to fine tune a few thoughts in your brain. You can't sleep. So my number one thing is to just tell everybody that's listening to stop making it a thing of shame, both for yourself and those around you, and just open up the conversation a little bit. Make eye contact with your partner. Hey, are you doing okay after that? Or how's things at home? We're not talking to each other enough. It's just business and, next call. Stop for 5 minutes and ask your people, how's it going? Are you okay? And so I think taking the shame off of it is probably my number one piece of advice for all of us.
Sweet. I love that. Appreciate that. And then I'm kind of curious and I want to have a little bit of fun with it too. What's the best part about this profession and what do you enjoy the most?
I have absolutely loved being in law enforcement, and it was my goal since I was a small kid. I knew this was what I was always going to do. Grew up kind of rough, around rough crowds of people, lots of sacrifices in order to get here. I don't regret a thing. Even with all these challenges, young people wanting to come up in this business, I tell them just go for it. Because if you have that calling in your heart, you'll never stop having it just because somebody tells you don't become a cop or don't become a firefighter. A lot of grumps in our business after a while, right? But for me, it's just been the connections I've made, really looking back on some of people's worst days, their worst moments. I got to be there. And my partners used to joke that I'm the hugger. When the scene was safe, I was always hugging everybody. You wouldn't believe how many random strangers on their worst day, if I ask them, hey, do you need a hug at the end of it? Most of them say yes. It's the craziest thing. It's their worst day. And, through tears saying, I never thought I'd be hugging a cop, And for me, that was always my best part. I'm like, I really have a God-given opportunity to stand here with this person on a bad moment and say, I'm here for you. More than just taking a report. I'm here for you. And so that for me has been probably such a great life blessing to take with me.
Yeah, I love that. And so one specifically with the hugging thing comes to mind. We had a call. It actually turned out to be a veteran. He was on like the suicide crisis line and they were like pinging his location in Daly City and ended up finding him. And this is kind of when I first started the Overwatch Collective and was getting into the mental health thing. And he was like, yeah, I'm a veteran. I'm struggling. I'm suicidal. And I just went up and like gave him a hug and he broke down sobbing. But like, it's crazy what like physical touch, like giving somebody a hug will actually do. Um, Pretty powerful.
We get really scared of physical touch after a while as first responders. We're kind of hardcore. And like, the idea of touch is just weird or whatever. But you're right. I mean, sometimes it just takes, even if they don't want a full blown hug, just putting your hand on someone's shoulder and letting them know they're going to be okay. Like you say, that energy shared between two people can really make all the difference.
Yeah, I love it. And then, so one last question before we wrap this up. Our motto at the Overwatch Collective is one more is one less. So it comes from the first season. We had an Army combat vet on who lost more friends to suicide upon return stateside than actually overseas. So it was like one more veteran we can help is one less funeral I have to attend, one less suicide, etc. So I always ask our guests what one more is one less means to them. So without further ado.
Put me on the spot. I like that. One more, one less. I think that applies for us personally too. We're reaching out to help others. We're doing this podcast so we can help our other people. And if you really stop and take a look at yourself and realize that you are number one for you. And if you're not here, then nobody can get help from you, which is the whole point of this career. So the one more, one less really resonates with me on a personal level. If I can make myself better, imagine the reach I have to help so many people and light everybody else's candles along the way because I lit mine first. So I'll start with me and just say, the more I get my own help, the more I talk about it, the more I show other people there's nothing to be ashamed of, then one less problem for those in my life to have to worry about because I've got myself together.
Yeah, love it. Great explanation. Appreciate it. You focused a lot on taking care of yourself during this podcast, and I really appreciate that and I enjoy it.
Thanks, Greg. I think there's a balance, right? And a balance between taking care of our family, our people, and ourselves, making sure that we're here to help support those around us. And like you say, if we're not maintaining our own mental health, then how can we help those around us for sure?
Yeah, definitely very important. Very, very important. All right. Well, this wraps up the episode. Appreciate you. Quick little 30-minute episode here. It was nice to get you on. Um, anything else that you want to add before I close it out?
No, I'll just throw out there that I'm available too for people. Sometimes reaching out to a complete stranger is easier than talking to the people in your life. So, I'm always available for folks too. They can find me online, social media, email. It doesn't matter if there's a fellow first responder, veteran that needs someone to talk to, or Northern California meetup for a cup of coffee. I'm here for anybody at any time, and they can find me anywhere.
Cool. Really appreciate you coming on. Thanks for everything that you do, and be safe out there at work.
Thanks, Greg. You do the same.
Of course. All right, everybody. Hope you enjoyed season 10, episode 10. Take care. God bless America, and thank you.